University and Director of Form Lab, which he's going to talk about today. Then we have Tate Shaw and Chris Merola from Visual Studies Workshop, and they're speaking today on Preacher's Biscuits books. And then we have Emily Larned and Bridget Elmer. Emily is with us from University of Bridgeport, and Bridget is with us from Asheville today. So, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and let Chad give us a brief introduction to what we're all talking about, and then we'll move into our separate panels here. And we'll leave some questions at the end, so feel free to hold all those to the end.
Sort of the part of the title of the panel today is unevenly distributed, and what is unevenly distributed is the future. And this is a quote by American science fiction writer William Gibson, who, curiously enough, if you know his work, his novels have been getting progressively set in progressively nearer time frames, such that his last book was actually set a year in the past. And so the topic today in general is about artists and artist organizations making choices about technology. For Denise and I, that Gibson quote serves as a kind of shorthand for saying that the kind of choices that art people have these days are not necessarily always straightforward, because there's this idea of things coming from the future, right? But Sterling, who's a cohort of Gibson, also reminds us that technology leans both forwards and backwards, and sometimes it's the trailing edge of technology that's the most important, or at least as interesting as the leading edge. So both of these quotes, though, they tie technology implicitly to time, and to some degree encapsulate this idea, which is a very American idea, that progress, the sort of myth of progress and moving forward, makes things better, and that there's this accumulation of knowledge and accumulation of understanding that eventually we'll understand more and things will get better and better. But sort of in this, we'll call it techno-socially composted environment, it's really not quite that straightforward. And so there's this idea of high technology, low technology, mixed technology, lateral technology, and as you'll see, obsolete technology. That's going to be talked about today. So sort of navigating that idea and making conscious and good decisions about technology is actually a pretty important activity. This is kind of a caricature, in a way, of an axis between sort of an extreme conservative or traditional view on the one hand and the extremely experimental view on the other. And I'm sure that you probably heard one or more of these positions articulated or somewhere along this line. actually print objects in layers of paper. The device that we have uses a high-grade plaster powder. And so you start with a 3D model. You either scan it from the real world or you create it digitally. You bring it in and you slice it up. And then what this machine does, like a very patient little Zen gardener, is it rakes a layer of plaster across a stainless steel platen and then uses inkjet, just regular inkjet printer technology to spray a binder into that powder. Then the platform lowers and it rakes another layer of plaster across. And a few hours later you can hold in your hand a physical model made of plaster that came from the image. So in a way, I mean, this is definitely a kind of printing. It's just a very sort of unusual kind of printing because you wind up with a physical object. And there are many different manifestations of this technology. Some use liquid, some use powder, some wind up with plastic in the end, some with metal. University of Washington, they are actually printing glass objects now, which is very exciting. They're printing in powdered glass and infusing it in a kiln. So this is, you might have seen on the cover of Print magazine a few months ago, they had some three-dimensional typography that was generated procedurally and printed on a machine very much like this. So very kind of exciting stuff. I don't want to take too much time talking about technology though. So. And Denise now is going to talk about the Small Craft Advisory Press. And as time, like I said, as people got involved, this became more organic, more interesting, and Small Craft Advisory Press and Formlab have grown closer and closer together as we sort of use each other's technologies and processes and facilities. And I think the future is going to be very interesting. We can't talk about it much, but some very interesting things are going to happen in terms of funding and facilities, and we're going to have a much more robust sort of set together.